folks, Adam here. Welcome back. Welcome to my shit show. Welcome to my nightmare. You know where I'm at. You know what I'm doing. I'm filming with that little flip camera. I don't care. I think the quality, actually, I think it made the picture brighter in the last one. That other camera's higher definition, but it gotta have the better lighting because of it. This camera picks up in lower light and stuff, and it's a little beast, so we'll use it. Alright, driving to work. I thought I'd do some gaming admissions. Not really shameful or anything, but just things that maybe other people have done these things, or I'm out of the norm, because I haven't or whatever. I was gonna just fire off random ones that I was thinking of, like I told you in the last video, I think, about the Mike Tyson thing. I'd never beat Mike Tyson. Well, I got to thinking about a bunch of other things that I hadn't done, and back in the day, I say that a lot, but the day, I think, was when I was like in my 1990, 89. I love Mega Man. What happened was I went over to stay the night at my friend Kevin's house. We were in middle school, and when I got over there, he had rented a game the night before. I think I was staying Saturday night, and he had rented a game Friday night. And he was on not the very last stage. He was getting ready to start the last stage, and the game was Mega Man, and he was getting ready to play Dr. Wily's stage. And the first Mega Man game didn't have like a password system or anything, so you basically just had to play through it. So he was playing that, and I started watching him, and he was explaining how you had to, it was easier to kill certain guys with certain weapons and this and that, and it looked pretty interesting. And I was into side-scroller or top-down scroller action games like Ninja Gaiden and stuff like that. So Mega Man was pretty awesome. So I played the hell out of the first Mega Man game, rented it quite a few times. Never owned it as a kid, but rented it. And even at that, I think my buddy Kevin wanted to buy Mega Man, but it wasn't available, I mean, he couldn't find a copy of it. And what ended up happening was that summer, it had to have been 89, 90, that summer, I was doing football conditioning over the summer. I think my mom just really wanted me to get out of the house and be active, so she put me into this conditioning thing, which is basically like running on a track and doing weights and shit. But I had to not only do that, but I had to ride my bike fucking 2 miles to get there, and then 2 miles home after I was done doing it. So when football season rolled around, they're like, "Are you gonna play football?" I'm like, "Well, hell yeah." I went through this whole damn conditioning camp. In hindsight, it was probably a good idea for my mom. Maybe, I think she just wanted me out of her hair. But, in the end, I think it really did help me make relationships in high school and stuff, and made things a lot more pleasant. But what ended up happening was I had stayed the night at Kevin's house one night, and then had to get up and go to the conditioning camp. My mom would have never known if I didn't go, but I'm one of those people that if I have a responsibility, I do it. So I was supposed to go to the camp, so I stayed the night at Kevin's house. We stayed up all night playing some shit game, probably Ultima Exodus. And I love that game, but I mean, just staying up all night playing games and stuff, and then the next morning, I got up. Come on, dude, you got it. You got it. Dude's got a wide-ass truck. Wider than my car. He's trying to squeeze through. See, but he wouldn't have had to worry about it if that guy that has 2 car lengths between him and the guy in front of him would have fucking pulled forward. Let's go, folks. So anyway, I got up or I didn't even ever go to bed. I went to conditioning camp from his house, and when I got done, I was fucking dead because I hadn't slept in 24 hours, and I'd done 2 of those training days. So after it was over, I went home and crashed, you know. Well, Kevin had went to sleep, you know, when I left and stuff, and then about, you know, around 12:31 in the afternoon, he woke up. He thought maybe I was still up there. He didn't know how long it was. It was only a couple hours in the morning, otherwise it got too hot. And on his way up there, thinking I was there and I wasn't, so he always kind of, the inside joke was it was my fault, because I should have came back by his house after the camp, so he would have known. But he got hit by a car and fucked his whole left ankle and leg up, and had to have a plate put in his ankle and all this stuff. But he was laid up over the summer, and it just so happened, I think I was at that Toys R Us the Toys R Us, I went in the Toys R Us video, and I was looking for something, and I saw that Mega Man 2 was out. And I don't think we even knew it was coming out, or that it had been released. And I told him when I talked to him later that day. I always think it's weird talking to a guy on the phone. I don't know, it just feels weird. I'm not a chatty dude on the phone anyway. But I told him that it was up there, so his mom went up and bought it for him. And then the next day when I came over there after the conditioning camp, he had already played through it, was at the end again on that game. And I told you the story about how I ended up beating Dr. Wily at the very end, and he was in the kitchen, and he got all pissed and almost fell out the door trying to hobble out there on crutches to see the end. And he's like, "You're a fucking asshole." I couldn't help it, though. But my confession is, after that Mega Man 2 game, we rented Mega Man 3 at one point and played through it, but there were so many enemies. I think you had to play through the game 1 and 2 enemies, plus all the new game 3 enemies. And it was just like, I don't think we beat it in the time that we rented it, but after Mega Man 2, I've never really played a Mega Man game. None of these Mega Man X games, these Mega Man, you know, whatever. I haven't played any of them since I bought Mega Man, the collection or whatever on the PS2, which I think is the first like 6 games or whatever. But I've never played them, and I don't really care. But I love the first 2 and would play through either one of them any day of the week. So that's one confession. This video can be super long because there's a story behind everything, but I'm trying to think of another. That was it kind of struck me when I thought about it. I was like, oh yeah. Super Mario Brothers I've talked about before. Once I beat Super Mario Brothers 3, and I got a Sega Genesis for my second machine that I ever owned. The first one being a Nintendo, because Nintendo was notorious for the blinking screen and all that shit, and I just didn't want to deal with the Super Nintendo, and I didn't know if it would be fixed or not. And Nintendo had just kind of soured my taste, and I had seen some Genesis, and my cousin had a Genesis, and I was like, I'm getting one of those. So, suffice to say, I didn't get the Super Nintendo that had the Mario World pack in or anything, and to tell you the truth, I'm just not a huge Mario fan, so I have never played Super Mario World. I mean, I've stuck it in, I've seen people play it. I've played some random little here and there's at like a kiosk, or I even own a copy, but I've never really played it. I played like part of the first little world you can go into, and that's it. And other than the same thing on Super Mario 64, I played the first couple of little stages, and I've seen some like the underwater like pirate ship and shit. I've seen people play those levels, but I've never played it, and I don't care. And so Super Mario Brothers, after Super Mario Brothers 3, and I only beat that game one time, and I could care if I ever really play through it again. I just don't care. But those first 2, it's funny, the same thing with Mega Man. Those first 2, I don't know if I've been shooting the fucking stomach this whole time. I hope not. Then I don't know. And what else? I was trying to think. There was another Nintendo thing that kind of I was thinking of, but I can't right now think of it. But since we're on the Nintendo 64, I'll throw this out there. The only Nintendo 64 game out of all the ones that I own, and you know I'm not a huge fan. I've never really talked the system up in any way, but one game, there are a couple games, but one of them that really impressed me, and it's the only one I ever beat, was Ocarina of Time. That is the only Nintendo 64 game I have ever beaten, and it's the only one that I think I had the patience to sit down and play through, and I don't think I would sit down and play through it again. Not because it was a bad game, but because there's so much other stuff to do, and I've been through it. So, but I did beat that game, and so beating games is almost more of a rarity to me. And that was what this is kind of like. It's either I've never played this, or I never beat this, is pretty much the way this is going. But another thing I've never played that a lot of people were into, Halo. Any of the Halo games, and I own Halo, 1 and 2, and I don't think I have Halo 3. I might. The thing is, I buy them because I've heard that they're good, people like them and stuff, but aside from sticking it in and making sure it boots up and watching a little bit of a cutscene or maybe moving the guy around at the very beginning just for a second, not even starting a mission, I haven't really played them, and I don't really care to, but I'm glad I have them in the collection. See, I feel like that guy in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Collector. What does he say when he sees the crystal? He like shakes his hands and he's like, magnificent, or whatever. And Rocket's like, when are we getting paid, Whitey? Damn, it's getting hot in here. Temperature dropped off last night to like the high 30s. So it's kind of chilly this morning. What's another? There's some other game. There's a ton of them. The only game I ever beat on the Dreamcast is Seaman. And it's just quirky with the microphone and raising that creature and all that. And it's the only game I ever beat on the Dreamcast. I don't know. I mean, those things kind of stuck in my head. Aside from that, I mean, there are plenty of others. I probably should have wrote more down, and then I could add a better video, and I might reshoot it anyway, because I don't know how good the camera's been in this. If it's not too bad, you might be watching this. So, another thing, I have never played online gaming, and never really PC gamed at all, but World of Warcraft, I know a lot of people have played a lot of World of Warcraft. I have never played it. Well, I take that back. I think at one point there was like a free trial weekend or something, and my buddy at work had played like a shit ton of it, and he's like, you'd probably like it. And I think he got me to like download the whatever to install to like start a base character on a free weekend or something, and I think I played it for about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and then I quit because it was just like, I don't know, I just didn't care, and that's part of it. I don't know. A lot of I was thinking Sega Genesis games. I mean, like, the only Sega Genesis games that jump out at me that I know I beat out of the ones that I own, I think there's 3 of them. I beat Shining Force, Phantasy Star 4, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And that was the pack-in with the system. And, I own Phantasy Star 3, 2 and 3, and I don't have Shining Force 2, but I would probably beat it if I did have it. I do have like a Genesis Collection 360 game that I think it's like a unlockable game on. And I'm trying to think. Sega CD, that's another one. I mean, I've only beaten a handful. Out of all the games that I own on it, I beat, let's see. I know I beat Dragon's Lair. I'm pretty sure I beat Space Ace, because they're both kind of the same type of game. I beat Sewer Shark one time. And I think that's it. I mean, and I've never even beaten the Shiny Force CD. There's so many other games that I really love on the system, but I just don't care if I finish them. And that, I guess that's my biggest confession is, and I've said it before though, I think, is I don't care. As long as I get enjoyment out of the game, I don't care if I ever finish it. And so, yeah. I don't know. I just really have always been like that. I don't have a lot of competitiveness in me. And because of that, I just don't finish a lot of games unless they really interest me. So, yeah. So that's kind of the deal. I think, to be honest, I was thinking about this too. The only Tomb Raider game I ever beat was the very first one on the original PlayStation. I don't think I've beaten a Tomb Raider game, any of them. I played a ton of them, but I don't think I've beaten one since. And the reason why that I thought of that was because I was watching the Angry Video Game Nerd video, the most recent one he did about some of the Tomb Raider games. And one of them he did was that Angel of Darkness on the PS2, which is horrible. It's one of the only PS2 games that I ever traded off. And I ended up buying it back because I got on a kick where I was trying to buy all the Tomb Raider games. And so I ended up buying it back at one point for a couple bucks, I think at Flea Mart. And yeah, so... Anyway, that's a few confessions. I got to get inside, so I'm going to talk to y'all later. Thanks for coming by, and like I said, if this is shooting my stomach for half of it, I don't know that I'll post it, but you can listen to me ramble on it anyway, so thanks for coming by, and we'll see you next vid. Bye.